Well, I just sort of happened into a business. I mean, I often refer to myself. I accidentally ended up starting a business because I got laid off and started helping people fix accounting, and that sort of turned into a business. And so I never really said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a business, and I'm going to go do this." I mean, I think that's what an entrepreneur does. And I've started one business. I'm an accountant who started an accounting firm. That doesn't feel very entrepreneurial to me, but I created a great place to work for me in a sense with the expertise I already had. I think I don't know that I'm a great entrepreneur. I don't have all these crazy ideas, but I think I am good at running a business. Like there's some people that are entrepreneurs, and there's some people that are guys that run a business, and I'm pretty decent at running a business. I'm good at drawing on the expertises of others and sort of being the hub of that, and sort of saying, okay, from what I hear you saying, I think we need to do this. And um, so I'm not that entrepreneur with that clear vision for this is what we're going to go do and we're going to go kill it. I'm like, yeah, this is a business that we can have, and I could be pretty good at running this business. That's sort of who I see myself as.
Welcome to another episode of Founders Growth. My name is John Hill, aka Small Mountain. I'm the founder of Adapted Growth. And today we have a very cool guest on the show. We have Chris McKee on the show today. Chris McKee is the founder and board chairman of Venturity. And I would love to kind of jump in just right there because we've had all sorts of founders on the show. You're the first person who has been in this kind of board chairman seat, and would love to kind of just talk about, why does the board exist? How is that helping you? Like what was the original idea behind that of wanting to bring on a board?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great question. I founded the company back in 2001. Was whatever you want to call the title of president or CEO, or I was managing partner at one point in time for almost 25 years. And really about 3 years or so ago, I realized it was time for me to kind of hand off the reins. So so I'm always going to be founder because
Mhm.
unfortunately, you can't shed that title once you're the founder.
I mean, if it works,
But
yeah, you're forever that founder, right? I
yeah,
mean,
I
some people
am,
don't
I
get
am.
that tier though. So
But I had a longtime collaborator, Deanna Walker, who's worked with me for ever since really about 2, 3 years into the firm's existence. And so she was a natural to really step into the CEO role, and was ready to do so as well. And I was ready to step down from the CEO role. And so we did about a year transition, planned it for about 6 months, then rolled it out to the team into the marketplace over about 6 months. And in December 1st of 2023, so almost 2 years ago now, I handed off the reins to her, and then I moved into the board chair role. And that was a newly created role for us. And really, it was something that Deanna and I worked on together, but she really wanted to have a role for me that was vital and could be a sounding board for her. But neither of us wanted me to be involved in the day to day with Venturity anymore. I was ready to move on to my next adventure, and felt like it was the right thing for me to not be involved in the day to day in order to give her the space to be the CEO. So we created the board chair role, and it was for where we've grown to as a company, it was the right time to do that as well.
cool.
You and I have talked about our employee stock ownership plan, and over time, we're going to need a formal board, a larger board. So it's starting out with just me, and then this year in 26, we hope to add an outside director,
Whoa.
and then I'll work with him or her to decide how we grow the board from there, and with Deanna as well. She'll sit on the board as the CEO. So, so that's kind of how the board chair role came about. It was several things that converged at the same time. It's a good role for me. We had a need to find a spot for me as I was making this transition.
Mhm.
And the company needs to start putting a board together, as we're around $14 million now. We should grow to 20 million over the next few years. As we start to grow, we need to formalize those governance structures as well. So
I think I've got a bajillion questions off of
yeah.
that, off of that response. But before I dive into those, let's go back a little bit, right? Because I don't want to make the assumption that everyone knows who Venturity is and knows who you are. So can you give us a 30-second commercial on Venturity and who you help? just real quick?
Yeah. No, easy to do. Uh, so as I say, we've been around, I guess it'll be 25 years in January, and really started out of something I was doing at the time, around 2000, 2001. So my background is I discovered accounting early in life in high school, and then got a degree in accounting from Ole Miss. And then after graduating from Ole Miss, came to Dallas, took a job in Dallas with one of the major accounting firms, worked there for 5 years, and then wanted to be more hands-on with accounting. And so went to work for several different companies in their accounting department, sort of working my way up through the accounting chain of command, if you will.
Mhm.
And really enjoyed being a controller and running accounting departments. And so the last company I was with in 99 ran out of funding. And so I found myself on my own, and was, while I was looking for a full-time role, was finding a lot of opportunities to help people clean up their books, catch up their books. And I realized there was, for small and medium-sized businesses, they really struggled to get their accounting done well. And so I was talking with clients, and and some of my clients said, well, if can you just keep doing our accounting rather than just clean it up? Can you hire people that work for you that do our accounting? And that sort of evolved into accounting outsourcing. And so, you know, got a few clients on and hired a few people, and then got a few more clients and a few more people. And now we have almost 50 folks here in the US, and over
Wow.
80 folks in India, which has been an interesting part of the journey as well. But what we do at our core is, if you think about a company, that most companies have an accounting department or an accounting person.
Mhm.
And if you've got a one or two person accounting department, it's just hard to attract and retain good qualified people for long in that situation, because they're going to be like me. Like, I moved from company to company so I could move up.
Uh-huh.
And if you've got a small business, even if the business doubles in size, that person's not going to go from being a staff accountant to a controller in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
They're still just going to be your accounting person. So rather than try and struggle to attract and retain those folks in house, it's just, and also, just supervise them and motivate them and all of those kind of things. It's just so much easier to really outsource that function, just like we do with our technology function at Venturity. We don't have a technology department. We use a managed services firm to do that work,
Mhm.
because there's no reason to own those resources in-house. We get a broad spectrum of technology expertise for less than the price it would cost us to own one person in-house. And so that's similar to what we're doing for folks on the accounting side.
That's
So yeah,
interesting.
hopefully that gives you an idea of what we do and what the journey was to get there.
So I have some questions off of that background, right? You were saying that you were looking for another job, but you kept running into projects and opportunity and everything. Was there like a major like decision state of like, okay, I'm gonna not look for another job,
Yeah,
or was it kind of just like falling and falling and falling, and then all of a sudden there's some clients? How did you approach that time? Because I think a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people, especially right now with all the layoffs and everything, a lot of people are, do I go dabble? Do I go freelance? Do I go start a business? Do I just keep looking? So how how did you parse that? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, I was, so this was 99,
Mhm.
and so, believe it or not, like, email was still a relatively new thing in those days. So I was
Absolutely, it was.
emailing everyone that I knew and letting them know that, I was looking for some sort of senior finance position, VP of
Uh,
finance, or larger company controller or CFO. And a lot of people just said, "Well, I don't have one of those, but what I've got is a mess I need cleaned up," or I've got a friend who's got a mess. And I found out I really enjoyed kind of swooping in and helping people I could kind of make sense of the chaos pretty quickly,
mhm,
and then put together a plan to kind of clean up their books. And I said, well, here's what's messed up. Here's what we need to do. It's going to take me about this amount of time. And, while I'm here, there's some process things that I could help you with, and we'll get those done too. And then I'll hand it back over to you guys, and you can keep doing it. And so that was an easy decision, because once I started getting more of that work, like, I
okay,
started out pricing it here, and then people kept calling. So I priced it here, and then people kept calling. So I priced it here.
mhm,
And it was an easy decision, because I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. doing these projects. And so that was easy. It was 2 years later when this idea for outsourced accounting started to crystallize. It was okay, I have to kind of take this and like big boy it and make it into a real business. I'm going to have to hire people and be responsible for their care and feeding, and make sure they're busy and find work for them. And as I expected, my income went down for a period of time because that's
Hmm.
typically going to happen. Like it's just not me. I got to find work and then let them do the work. And then I've got to go find more work. And so, that was the harder part. And I think the decision point, and I talked it over with my wife, was, you know, I can keep doing this by myself, but I'm not building anything of value. I'm just putting food on the table, which
Yeah.
is fine, but it may end at some point. And I think there's this opportunity out there to really build a business around this. And it will be hard for a period of time. And I don't know how long that will be. But if we can build it to a certain point, then it's something that may have some value to someone else. And I could potentially sell that or have enough people working for me that I'm not working 80 hours a week and
Yeah.
I can do the accounting work that I want to do and sort of lead the firm and have a little better balance with all that as well. So, but I had a friend doing it with me at first, and we did our first proposal. And after we did the proposal, I originally called him up and said, "Hey, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do it," because it was intimidating. It was a little
Yeah.
scary to like
Scary.
start a business. So he talked me off the ledge, and so he was there for a couple of years, and then he wanted to go off and do something else, and so
Mm.
then I kind of took it from there. So, but yeah, so there were two sort of decision points. One, sort of sticking with that project work, which was easy because it was really lucrative and fun, and I was just
Hmm.
myself, and I was the guy swooping in and being the hero, and that was all great. Starting a business, a whole different basket of tricks, and so that was a
100%.
harder decision to make. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. It definitely wasn't was here and now it's here.
Hmm.
It was there were a lot of times where I regretted that decision over those years, but now looking back, it's um, obviously it paid off financially, but from a personal development standpoint, the things I learned along the way have been incredible. The people I've gotten to work with on the client side and the team members I've had, and it's reinforced that was a good decision. So
When you think about, I love the focus on the client work first in projects, right? Because like I think a lot of people try to rush that step, and they've got some good knowledge, they have some domain expertise. Like I did a similar thing of like just putting myself out there, I'll take your calls kind of thing before this version of the business kind of came together. And I
yeah,
think it's super helpful because you end up figuring out all the things you don't want to do, right? And what you're not going to be strong at.
absolutely. Well, and you sort of prove that there's a market there for it. Like I didn't go out on my own with the intention of starting my own business,
Yeah.
but more and more stuff came along, and there seemed to be I sort of put together, I penciled out some numbers, and I said, well, if we could price it at this and could hire people at this, there would be a little bit left over for me, and this could be a business here.
Hmm.
And so it was, there was a discernment process there, but it was more clients pulling me in that direction versus me trying to sort of push a product that I had in my head on them. Oh, here's something that I think is a good idea. You should buy this. It was more of a, here's what we do. Oh gosh, I could use some of that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I thought to myself, there could be something here.
I love that you said that because what people think that they're hiring me for is to go be that bridge and force this thing that they created down the throats of other people and to force it to get to the yes. And it's like if you start with their perspective and their needs and their desires and everything, you don't have to be even really all that great of a salesperson. You just need to be consistent.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, it takes all the pressure off if you're starting from a place of reality of like what people are really concerned about and what they really want. And client work gives us that opportunity if we're not getting ahead of ourselves, right? I think
yeah,
it's easy to like want to just put yourself in this, well, I'm a CEO now. Okay, great. Okay. How many people have you
yeah.
worked with? Well, no.
I, I was the opposite. I am not an entrepreneur by any stretch of the
See, you
imagination.
said
It
this
didn't
and
have any.
you buried the lead because I was going to bring this up because you said that in our call before this, and it shocked me to my core to hear you say that you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, well, I just sort of happened into a business. I mean, I often refer to myself. I accidentally ended up starting a business because I got laid off and started helping people fix accounting, and that sort of turned into a business. And so I never really said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a business, and I'm going to go do this." I mean, I think that's what an entrepreneur does. And I've started one business. I'm an accountant who started an accounting firm. That doesn't feel very entrepreneurial to me.
Oh man,
If I built a chain of 10 restaurants, that would feel entrepreneurial to me.
that
I created a great place to work for me in a sense with the
that
expertise I already had. But it's
that's so
worked out.
funny.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, I had the thinking that if I was not creating something like Facebook or something technical or like a piece of software, that those were the entrepreneurs and everyone else was just like not good enough to be at that level, right? And guy, it was a very limiting perspective, right? Because, I'm a sales trainer, so at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are like, well, John, that's not very entrepreneurial. Sales been around for a long time. Well, we're doing it differently over here, with intention and with purpose. And so I like, I making that shift for myself of like, hey, this is entrepreneurial, right? This is something I'm trying to do was ultimately helpful for me, right? Of changing my thinking and getting out of my own way a little bit. But I also think that some people take that too far, right? They get so wrapped up in founder stuff and CEO stuff that they're not doing the
Yeah.
basics
Yeah.
of driving this whole thing forward because they're playing the founder role a little too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was around in the dot-com days and saw a lot of that kind of thing. And
Oh, I
so,
bet.
we
Absolutely.
had it was hard to early client retention decisions around that. Hey, does this guy really have a business, or does he need to pay us? Or should we go work with some people who are in HVAC? They've got a real business and they need
Hmm.
accounting, and so so we leaned a little more that way than we did a lot of the new and interesting ideas, and we were pretty selective about that. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know that I'm a great entrepreneur. I don't have all these crazy ideas, but I think I am good at running a business. Like
There you go.
there's some people that are entrepreneurs, and there's some people that are guys that run a business, and I'm pretty decent at running a business. I understand obviously the financials, but I'm also good at sort of learning technology and understanding people issues. And, I guess I'm also good at sort of learning and absorbing. So I've learned enough about sales to sort of understand how a little bit about how we need to position ourselves and stuff.
Hmm.
I'm good at drawing on the expertises of others and sort of being the hub of that and sort of saying, okay, from what I hear you saying, I think we need to do this. And so I'm not that entrepreneur with that kind of that clear vision for this is what we're going to go do and we're going to go kill it. I'm like, yeah, this is a business that we can have, and I could be pretty good at running this business. That's sort of who I see myself as. So
I love
I don't
that.
know, for what
I'm going
it's
to
worth.
zoom in here a little bit because I'm curious as to your thinking on this, right? Because uh, I love how you said that you're you're good at running a business, but you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur. And then there's a whole thinking of like visionaries and integrators and things like that. And some people take, I think, that a little too far, right? They're just like,
Yeah.
I can't even show up 2 days in a row, but I got a great idea once every six
Yeah.
years kind of thing. How do you think that the entrepreneur should try to be the good business owner? Do you think that they should be together? Or is it just more important to know who you are, how you're intentionally build your business around your weaknesses and your strengths? Like, what would you tell
Wow,
someone else to do?
that's a super interesting question. I think the answer is so. I've had a lot of peers that had businesses similar size to mine because I've been in a couple of peer groups,
Hmm.
and I think the answer is a little bit different based on the bag of tricks that you bring to the table. I think that visionary. I think both pieces are necessary. I think this visionary integrator terminology is grounded in that entrepreneur operating system, that
Okay.
EOS model. And while we don't use it at Venturity, I do think that framework gives you a great language to talk about these things from.
Same.
And I would
Yeah.
say I'm probably 80% integrator, 20% visionary. Um, but for the type of firm that I was creating, that's probably enough. There most accountants Most of my fellow accountants, I put myself in this bucket, are probably 100% integrators, 0% visionary.
I
And
would think so,
so,
probably too.
rather than, have all these ideas, but I only show up 2 hours a week, I'm the other way around. I'm there every hour of the week, but I have 2 ideas a month, or 2 ideas a year. I like to say I've had probably like two more good ideas out of the hundreds of ideas I've had and we've implemented. I've probably had maybe two more good ideas than all of the bad ideas I've had. And that's why we've been successful. I've made more good decisions than bad ones by about this much
Yeah, it's a
because I've
small
made a lot
margin
of bad
overall
ones
though,
along
right?
the way as well. Yeah, I think that, but no, your question is good. I think it's a different answer for everyone. Someone who's maybe, and maybe I'm 70-30, not 80-20. I may not be giving myself enough credit, but I think someone who has too much of one or the other, it's often good to find a partner or hire a right-hand person who you can partner with and respect that can complement you in that way. It's really going to be different for every. I think people starting a business that can operate in both of those places can say, okay, I've got this idea and
Mhm.
here's some other ideas around it. Let me take this and run with it. And then when it gets to this point, okay, I've got another idea that builds on that versus, oh my gosh, I'm going to start this. And then, oh gosh, we could do this, this, and this
Yeah.
too. And oh, we
Mhm.
could do this and this. Okay. But like, let's take the first couple of things and let's get those. I think somebody who has a good balance of those things, it makes it easier for them because they can do it a little bit on their own. But if you're too far one way or the other, it's oftentimes good to have another collaborator with you. I was really glad that Deanna Walker came on board with me after a couple of 3 years because she's a little more visionary than integrator. So there was some healthy tension between us, but I couldn't have brought her on the first day because there wasn't enough work there to do it. So I
Yeah.
had to deal with the bag of tricks I had, and I happened to use those to get to a point. But then I brought her on to be our first salesperson, and then it sort of went from there.
I love the thing that you said in there that I think most people would miss around the idea that you didn't need someone to be more of an integrator than you are, right? The awareness that like you're good at the day to day, you enjoy the day to day, right? And so then that
Yeah,
leads to
yeah.
bringing on someone who can bring more of that visionary thing. I think like that awareness is like kind of flooring. Like were you looking at her to be
No, what
more?
I was it was much simpler in those days because we had, like, 8 employees or something. I was just trying to stay in business. But I was at that point where, there's a book called The E-Myth out there that's
Oh
really
yeah,
good about it.
great book.
Someone who's a technician and really good technically at something, good at a certain skill, and, they go out on their own and they're really good at that skill, but then the business gets to a point where they have to start making just some decisions about how am I gonna spend my time? And so in my case, my skill is accounting, and I had to make some decisions about we were to the point that I couldn't go out and sell the accounting and then
Mhm.
also help do the accounting back in the office. And we didn't have enough people to where I couldn't do I had to kind of pick one or the other. So I either
Yeah.
needed to hire somebody to be the person that ran the accounting shop while I went off and did sales,
Uh-huh.
or I had to hire a good salesperson and I would run the shop.
Mhm.
And it was as simple as that. So I really looked at myself and said, look, I'm going to be much better and our clients are going to be much better served if I'm the inside guy and I hire somebody else to be, because my background's not sales. I should hire a salesperson, someone who has. And so, through referral, through friends, I got referred to Deanna and she was really interested in what we were doing because nobody else was really doing it and
Yeah.
wanted to be the salesperson for it. She happened to be she had a sales background, and so she was more dynamic and more of the visionary type, obviously,
Hmm.
than I was as sort of the doer guy. So I got lucky. I was just trying to hire someone to do the thing that I wasn't as good at, but
Mhm.
she also brought another additional bag of tricks with her in addition to her selling ability. So
That is very, very interesting. Going back a second, you were talking about running the projects, and then there was the decision to make it bigger, right? To build the team, to do the bigger thing.
yeah, yeah.
Was there any resistance to that? Like, like coming from accounting and looking for, efficiency and everything. I mean, small is tight, right? Great margins, right? A lot of control, not a whole lot of things. Did you have any resistance of like, well, like maybe I should keep this small? Or was it like once you saw it, you're like, let's go?
I I definitely went through that thought process. There wasn't much hesitancy about continuing to grow. But
Mhm.
I did have a gut check where I said, well, I could just keep this thing small and not hire a salesperson and just do both. And, we'll have, I don't know, 5 or 8 people and a few clients, and that will be something, and it'll pay the bills for me. And that's manageable for me. And so I said, is that what I really want? I said, no, I think there's really a market opportunity here. And there's an opportunity for me. A big piece of starting the business too was creating a place where people would enjoy coming to work. And I brought on a lot of people who were not the public accounting people like I was when I got out of school. There were tons of accounting people out there that got an accounting degree and just went to work for small companies, and they were sort of the Lone Ranger. And I created this place where people could come in and we could all be accountants together, and we could put training programs in place. And I said, no, like, we've got something here not only that can serve more clients, but be a great place for more people to work. There's not anything like this. People are either working at a big public accounting firm, or they're working inside accounting departments. But I could bring them in and invest in their career and have a career path for them, and
Mhm.
we could all do this together, and it would be fun. And so it was pulling me that direction. And I did have a moment where I was like, well, I owe myself. Do I really want to do this? But I didn't have a whole lot of hesitancy around that. I thought, well, this no, I think for the clients and for the people, to create opportunities for the people, I said, I can do this. I'm at a point in my life where I can invest my energies around this. I can see a path to where this will be a really cool thing. So I probably should have thought about it more, but
So, interesting question here that I'm curious to your take on. Talking about the idea that you don't really see yourself as an entrepreneur, right? You just did the thing at a bigger scale, is how you talked about it in
yeah,
our
yeah,
previous call. So knowing that like accounting is a thing, and knowing that there's a need for it and stuff like this, I imagine it's probably not as crazy as like starting something completely that's never happened before. Okay,
yes.
but I'm curious, was there like a tier to where it's like, okay, this is working for us. Not just because, like, I mean, if it's a known thing, right? Attorneys, dentists, things like that, like, there's pattern and precedent of people being in this space and stuff like that. But I'm curious if there was still like a moment to where you hit a plane to where you're like, oh, okay, like, this is like, I thought it would work. We're good.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's another interesting question. I would say the market has developed in an interesting way. So when we first started in the early 2000s, um, there were people that were, when I explained to them, were interested in um, potentially outsourcing their accounting, but we had to do a lot of education.
Yeah.
Technology had really just gotten to the point where you could remote into people's accounting software and do the accounting remotely, and truly have it be an outsourced solution. So there was a lot of education that had to happen, and some people said, "No, I need my John Hill sitting next to me doing my accounting for me. I can't let that go." So it
No
was
one's ever
a
said that about me though, Chris. So thank you for
yeah.
being the first. I appreciate it.
How does that feel? Well,
I've never been here before. I might have to like journal for a little bit after this interview.
I hear you. So it was a slow burn during the first decade, and then when we got to 2009 and 10, it was starting to be more widely accepted. Accounting firms were having departments that did what we did, but we were still the only kind of pure play outsourced accounting group. And so then we started getting phone calls that said, "Hey, I want to outsource my accounting. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to do it. And I heard you guys are good." So that
Mm,
was, that was a relief more than anything. It was like, geez, we're not like,
okay.
it's not an
Yeah.
uphill battle with every client in terms of, and so, I would say, but in terms of, and then let me come back to when I kind of knew we were good.
Sure.
So, and then in post COVID, what's happened, and that momentum continued to pick up post COVID, once everybody had to work from home,
Mhm. Mass adoption.
suddenly
Yeah.
the CEOs, they had their John Hill, and then John Hill's at home doing the accounting, and they suddenly realized, well, maybe I don't need John sitting next to me. And what's John doing? And like, I
Mhm.
don't like, do I need IT people and accounting people sitting in my office really? And so then as we we're in COVID and coming out of COVID, there's really just little resistance to the idea of outsourcing your accounting
Yeah.
because people are just they're like, well, I don't really care. I mean, my accounting person's sitting at their house anyway, so why don't I just professionalize it with you guys and you can do it out of your office and I can have a firm do this rather than a person that I'm kind of beholden to. And if they decide they want to go work from home for somebody else, they're just going to go do that, you know? So
Yep.
so that really has how the market has really turned 180 degrees over the
Hmm.
course of our existence. I would say the moment I sort of knew, um, Deanna came on board as our salesperson in late 2003, and 2004 was slow. I mean, it took
Hmm.
us, and in fact, we got it over our skis, and I had to borrow some money, and we kind of got to the point where it was like, all right, if we don't close 2 or 3 clients here in the next 60 days, like, I don't know if there's a business here.
Yeah.
And then we got those 2 or 3 clients closed, and so that was good, but I was really close to sort of like, "All right, I'm kind of the line of credit's maxed out, I'm kinda like I'm kinda done."
Yeah.
And so but then we got some deals closed, and then in early 2005, in March 2005, we closed 5 clients in 1 month. And so that was the moment I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, we're over the hump. We're
Whoa.
making money, paid the line of credit back, and
Hmm.
and then it was like 1 to 2 clients a month, kind of steady after that, and we just started growing nicely, which was really good. So yeah, there was
Yeah.
some real engagement with it. That was probably the moment where I said, "Okay, we're over the hump." So
That is
yeah,
fascinating. Okay,
yeah,
going back to that time of Deanna's on board, there's always a sales slump when you bring on someone and you take the founder out of the sales seat, even if they're not great at it because they're the founder, and that it's just like normal for how that happens. When you're talking about the education, um, big believer that it makes sense to educate people before you try to sell them, so that way they can make a discerning, decision. Were those deals like just on that kind of like educational like tip, or were they new deals? Did something change, I guess, in how you were talking about it, your sales process, your outreach, or
no, I don't
labels or
think so.
anything?
I think this would be a good question for Deanna if she were here, because she was the one that was actually out there more in the marketplace.
Mm,
I would say, we had, and I was still doing a lot of networking. I wasn't, I was still, she and I were doing sort of the sales together
mhm.
because it helped to have the founder there sometimes.
Oh
Because
yeah.
she was the one that was really building her network. And I think a lot of those things started to really pay off. She came from an investment banking background, which is very different, larger investment background, very different client. She had to really,
Hmm.
and then had been a stay-at-home mom for 3 years before coming back into the workplace to work with me. And she was part-time as well. So it was really a 6 to 9 month process of building her sales process, her network.
Yeah.
She really sort of, and to her credit, she was very intentional about all those things. And so I think what happened in early 2005 is those things started to pay off.
Yeah. Tipping point.
But sometimes deals just come in bunches. I mean, you've talked to a salesperson, you just suddenly the phone, yeah, suddenly just deals come.
Hmm.
And then it dries up. And so, and I think it would be nice if we've had periods like after that where sales were sort of 1 to 2 a month, and that's very digestible. But
Oh
that's not the way sales usually works. It's like nothing happens for 3 months and then 5 clients show up, and you're like, oh, wait.
yeah.
So it was a good education in that at that time as well. So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
I have some questions for you because I've noticed a couple of things. You've not mentioned the word fractional at all. You've said outsourced accounting a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the difference in your opinion?
Well, fractional is spelled Fractio, and outsource is spelled.
Is it an intentional split? Do you see them as different modes,
No,
different?
I really don't. I mean, we've just always outsourced was the term that people used early days with us
Mhm.
that seemed to be able to get their head around it.
Okay.
And that was different. The light bulb seemed to come on more with that word than with fractional.
Mm.
At that time, the idea of fractional CFOs and fractional C-level resources, Tatum was really growing quickly during that same time that we were coming on board or coming online. And so they tended to use more of that fractional deal. Here's where I would say they're different. So when I think of fractional, and someone listening to this may scream at the screen later,
Let's hope so.
but this is the way I see it for what it's worth. We have CFO services,
Okay.
and it is a little bit different. They really do get sort of one person, and they get a piece of that one person in our CFO practice. And so I'm here, there, and a lot of times they go on site and they're there like Monday for this client, and Tuesday, Wednesday for this client, and Thursday, Friday for this client. But you're buying a certain amount of that person's time.
Hmm.
With outsourcing, we really became the accounting department for our clients,
Okay.
effectively 24/7, 365. We are their accounting, but they don't have an accounting department. Now, not all, and they all of our clients get a controller, assistant controller, and a staff accountant.
Mm.
Now they get how we mix up that work, and they obviously get a portion of that person's time. But that department is there every business day, every day of the year. If they have a
Hmm.
problem, they just shoot an email or pick up the phone, and we're their accounting department. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like fractional feels more like I'm available a fraction of the time, but we're available 100% of the time. But my team is working on 5 or 6 or 8 different clients
That's fair.
all at the
Yeah.
same time. And I'm working on, I'm three of us are on a team together, and I'm working on this, and you're working on this, and you're working on this of different clients. But if a client calls, we can drop what we're doing and work on that thing we need to work on for them. So
Absolutely.
I guess that would be how I draw the distinction. And I don't feel like we're a fractional accounting department because you're getting a whole department the whole time. So it
I
doesn't
respect that.
feel
Yeah.
fractional to me. But I've never
Interesting.
thought about that before. So it's a good question. That would be how I'd answer it. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
if you would like me to answer more questions with yes or no, because I feel
No,
like I'm giving you like all this information. Like, does he really care about it?
the reason why you made it through the vetting, Chris, is because you're not just telling me yes or no. Like this
Yeah.
is exactly what I'm looking for. So, okay, I'm changing topics here just a little bit.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, feel free.
Do you think that there is a difference between sales and business development?
No, I'm just
Thank
kidding.
you. Thank you. God, thank you. I was
uh,
so worried that you were going to be like, well, John, they're very different. And because yeah, I find that most
I
people want the business development role and title because they're looking for that murk and they're looking for some of that not clear goals, not clear things. And what it leads to, at least in my experience and talking with lots of people about it, is it leads to more anxiety because of how loose it is, as opposed
uh,
to,
we have always used the terms interchangeably
okay,
internally, but positioned our team members as business development people because we're selling professional services, and that's the more typical term. I
okay, that's
We
fair.
try not to get too balled up in some of those terms because we listen to what like we'll use terms, and whatever makes the light bulb go off with people that helps them understand it a little bit better.
Yeah,
So we found that our sales team got more leads when we called them business development people than when we called them salespeople. So, but
heard.
there was never any confusion on their part. They just know they needed to go get deals done. And
I love that.
whatever we called them or they called themselves, that we all didn't really care about that very much. I
Interesting.
do think there's a distinction between sales and marketing,
I agree with
and
that
that's
too.
probably an obvious thing that everyone listening to this knows. But I don't know that when I started a business, I necessarily knew that. But they are two different expertises, and they should complement each other really well and work together very closely. We had to start out with sales because that's all we could afford to do. And now we have some marketing
Yeah,
to go along with that. And we're really starting to do more of that. But I have respect for both roles because they have been responsible for those things over the course of our existence. Was never as good at it as people. I was serviceable at it, but always was excited when I could bring people in that were really good at it, and I could turn that over to them, and we could work together to figure out how they could be successful.
absolutely. I appreciate that distinction. And I think of marketing as a different skill set with like a big overlap with sales, but fundamentally different in the craft and what leads to high
Yes, the
performance in that
craft is
craft, you know?
certainly different. Yep, yep.
So, okay. So a lot of people struggle with bringing on sales, right? It's a very well-known thing. And even in professional services, a lot of people struggle with this thing. So, a little bit of backstory for people who don't know me or know you. We're actually in the same metroplex. We're in DFW. I'm on the Fort Worth side, right? And you're on the Dallas side. And for when I hit the small business scene and I start doing networking, I kept hearing this one name of this person I needed to meet, Abby Fuqua, Abby Fuqua, Abby Fuqua, Abby Fuqua, right? And she was coming up in all of my conversations, right? And I was trying to spend most of my time on Fort Worth because I'm trying to be efficient. I don't want to drive all the way to Dallas if I don't have to and everything.
Sure, sure, yeah.
What was flooring to me is that after I met her, right, finally was able to kind of like have a conversation with her, and it was like, oh my gosh, this person is everywhere, but she's good at this, right? Like it's not just that out gregarious, I'm friends with everybody kind of thing. Like she's able to do that, but like there's a there's some drive behind that person, right? And you feel it if you're savvied up around sales and marketing and growth and doing some of
Yeah,
these things.
yeah.
What do you look for in a salesperson? Like what have because you talk about your new CEO and how she came on and was able to help you out. And Abby's a force of nature. Anyone who's networking inside of DFW knows who Abby Fuqua is, or else you're not serious,
Yeah.
right? So what have you found? What have you learned? What tricks have you discovered? Because you're batting 1,000 right now, right? Compared to most people that have never been able to do it at all, right? So how do you think about it? What makes you different? Like, how do you approach this differently than everyone else who just is endlessly struggling with it?
Yeah, well, look, I haven't always gotten it right. We've probably had four really good salesperson people for the caliber of Abby over the course of our existence.
Uh-huh.
You know, certain Abby is I agree with you, is amazing. What makes Abby successful is she's a really good person underneath it all, and she enjoys helping other people out. So, and that help could be helping prospective clients find their way out of the accounting woods and, you know, craft a solution that helps them, or it could be helping John meet the right client for him,
Mhm.
or meet somebody else that can refer him to the right client for him. And so she doesn't uh, and I feel like she does it in a very selfless way because she's just a nice person, and that's just I think that's, and I think all of our best salespeople have really been that way. But it's paired with her and with our best salespeople and with Deanna. Deanna, incredibly compassionate, intelligent, insightful person, um, and a really nice person as well. Underneath it all has been driven. They're competitive driven people, and they also want to they want to close deals. They want to help the company grow. They want to help people find an accounting solution. And so I think it's that drive paired with that just a nice person and a good person. And that's, in retrospect, in 2020 hindsight, I looked at our culture, how our culture's developed, and at some point along the way, I said, look, if you're a nice person and you know how to do accounting, you're good at accounting, we're probably going to hire you. I mean, that's really what that's how we've built our culture, is people that are really good at accounting, and they're really nice people, and it's hard to find those people, believe it or not. And that's been a theme for anybody that works for us, from our office manager to our sales team to our person who's the head of recruiting. I mean, they're good at what they do, and they're also just nice people. They don't come at it with an ego need to get it done. So, well, I don't know. I Yeah, we've had four really good ones over the years, and then we've probably had five or six that didn't work out. And so
Interesting. Okay.
we've tried to the things that we've done to try to hit, so we're probably 40%, not batting 1,000, probably batting 400, which is still pretty good.
Still pretty
But
good. You'd
we've
still be
tried
in
to
the
put
pros.
some we've tried to put some tools in place. We have a really thorough hiring process for everybody that comes on board with Venturity. We use a top grading model, and so that's true of everybody. And then we also use a tool called Culture Index, and
Yeah.
so it gives us a real window into, you know, we know what kind of work it takes to be a good salesperson. Is this the kind of person that likes to do that type of work? And so, and then we've also, on the sales side, we use the Sandler training method. And so they've got some testing they can do as well around the alignment of people, around like 30 something
Philosophies. Yeah.
characteristics, how aligned they are with. And we've used all those data points to try and get a composite of somebody. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. So, but yeah, we found people just through people that we knew said, "Oh, here's somebody that we want to meet." Deanna was like, Deanna came because a friend of mine said, "Hey, I told this person about what you do, and she thinks she could sell that." I'm like, "Oh, good, because I knew a salesperson." Abby, we found we had a headhunter that we worked with for a few years, and she found Abby, and she was a one person recruiting person, and she was very focused, and she was really good at finding like that gem. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's I don't know, those are all the that's my brain dump on it. Hasn't all worked, but I think as we've gotten better with some of the testing, and Deanna was
Oh, yeah.
lucky as we got as we got more, we've been more intentional, and we've been able to put more structured things in place. And the the good ones have been great, and the ones that didn't work out were not as much of a disaster as the early ones were that didn't work out. So
Very
we've
fair.
gotten better for what it's worth. So
So, zeroing in on something you were talking about there, right? You're talking about people who are good people who care about their work, right? But you're also looking for people that'll go out and take action, remember the goals, be goal oriented, not wear the rejection too heavily and everything, right? So, if you were still in the CEO seat and you're interviewing for another sales spot on your team, what's more important, right? Order of operations here, right? Because I'm on the same page with you that they're both important. Drive, care, concern, good person. Which one are you picking?
yeah. Yeah, well, they've got to be a good person. I mean, like they won't fit in our culture. They will be, like you said, both have to be there in order for them. They've got to have the drive in order to be successful.
Mhm.
But to align with our culture, it's going to be hard for them. They're not going to enjoy being a part of our culture if they don't have that if they're not a good person underneath all of that. So yeah,
I
I think
appreciate.
culture. I've heard a lot of people talk about culture, and like if you have an intentional culture, because everyone has a culture, as they say.
Yep.
Every company has a culture, good or bad. If you have an intentional culture, whether that culture is good or bad, if you're because sometimes you're gonna have a bad culture, but you can be intentional about it.
Mhm.
That fit that culture will make their way to you, and the people that you hire that don't fit that culture will make their way out of the culture. Okay, so I think it's important to be intentional about your culture, whatever that is. And so our
Agreed.
culture is. I oversimplified it, but that is my oversimplification. That's not too far from the truth. There's more to it than that,
Mhm.
but that's really what it is at its core. And so people who are not necessarily, not even like mean people, but not necessarily like super nice people, they're going to just not feel comfortable in our culture. Not because we're bad people. They're just going to be like, yeah, that's just, these people are just too much for me. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh, First of all, I love when people are very intentional in how they communicate, and I love how you said you're just not going to like it, right? Because a lot of people will be
yeah,
like, "You're not the right fit," right? Which that small change matters in my world, right? Um,
gotcha. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like have to versus get to, right? Well, I have
yeah,
to go to work. No,
yeah,
I get to go to work. I get to do this hard thing that I signed up for, right? And I love that whole thing because like there's a big difference between you're going to think I'm expensive versus like you're not going to like my pricing because we're doing a lot more than you think we should be doing,
yeah.
right?
Well put. Yeah.
And having that conversation the right way. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and this is for people who are listening, it sounds like you're an advocate of hire for the culture first and then the skill set second.
Wow, I hope I'm not speaking on behalf. I'm speaking on behalf of Chris McKee. I'm probably not speaking. I may or may not be speaking on behalf of Deanna Walker and the rest of the organization. But
We'll roll the ticker tape underneath this thing, right, whenever it runs.
yeah, I really think so because I mean the skills are sort of table stakes, and we actually do skills testing for all of our accountants.
Okay.
So, but before we do the skills testing, we do a culture index on them.
Yeah. So it shows up
So
in how in your
they
process
don't
and how it's
they got to
built.
pass the culture index before they even get to come in and do the skills testing. So yeah, you're probably right because we found that okay, if we do the skills testing first, okay, great, they can do a bank reconciliation. Then we give them the culture index. Well, why did we why didn't we give them the culture index first? Because they're obviously not a fit for this place.
Yeah.
So yes, I would say that's probably an accurate depiction. So
So
Yeah.
what happens in my world sometimes, right, as a salesperson, right? First of all, I'm an introverted salesperson. I'm way more strategic than I am trying to just go win at everybody and stuff like this. And sometimes this doesn't play well, right? Because I'm not that great. I'm not given that hungry, super urgent vibe. I'm gonna go take over the world and everything. Was there a period of time when you were like maybe before Abby or something else like that, that some people think that that's what is required, right? That you must be that Don Draper, I'm going to win at all costs and stuff like that. I've not found that to be true. People who are driven to go do great work will find ways of doing great work. But I'm curious, did you have a season of they got to be that savage, they got to be that killer, they got to be that kind of thing? Or were you able to kind of sidestep that?
Yeah, no, because it's not who I am, and I'm also a super patient dude. So I never felt like, man, I've enjoyed the journey with Venturity, and I never felt that we needed to be $100 million company in 5 years, or like it's
Hmm.
just the company is the money thing will take care of itself if we create. I know this is going to sound really Um, oh yeah, well, it's easy to say now, but if we create I naively sometimes felt like if we create a great place for people to work
Hmm.
and we enjoy the time that we spend at work, and we obviously we hire people that have good accounting skills and invest in them, they're going to create a great experience for our clients. That and if they create a great experience for our clients, the clients are going to stay, they're going to refer other clients to us, and then we'll grow and be able to hire more good people, and that'll be a virtuous cycle. And it's worked out that way, thank goodness. But that was just the few times before we had a lot of the tools in place that we hired people that were not nice people. Man, I was just like, oh, wow, I just can't. Yeah, they're willing to run through walls, but they're also willing to run over everybody around here. And
Uh,
this is just, I don't want to come to work with this person every day. And you know what? I'm the
yeah,
CEO and I get to decide that. I don't
absolutely.
care if we never get any bigger, like because we didn't keep this person around. Like I'm willing to, they always say your values aren't your values till they cost you money. Yeah, like this was,
Oh,
one
what
of
a
our
line.
values is engaging environment. And if we got jerks, I mean, it's not a very engaging place to work.
Yeah,
I would, yeah, yeah. So it's
fascinating.
that I have learned that lesson accidentally, but I've never intentionally compromised on is this person a nice person because I thought, oh well, the ends justify the means. I'm like, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just because I've made enough hiring mistakes and hired people that I thought were nice and not nice, and I know how that feels. I'm like, I'm never
Mhm.
going to bring somebody in here intentionally
Yeah.
that I think is we can put up with because they can do some great thing. So I don't know. Yeah.
Epic. Great, great, great response. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, one last little topic that I would like to talk about before we kind of get into into the rapid fire questions, right?
Okay. Because yeah, I'm going to tell you, you got a 20. I'm giving you a 20-minute warning right now
Thank you so
because you
much. I
said an hour and
appreciate it.
15.
We're going to be in
Like I
here.
can
We're
do
going
this all day because I'm just a board chair. I mean, I don't have
to
anywhere to go,
Hey,
but like I
I'm
want
good
to
for the
only.
rest of the day, Chris. I will monopolize your time, sir. This is a great conversation. All right.
We'll break it up into 10 episodes of an hour and 15 minutes each.
When can we talk about the ESOP thing for just a little bit, right? And can you give a
Yeah. Yeah.
little
Sure.
bit?
Sure.
I'm sure that a lot of people don't even know what an ESOP is, right? And when to use it, how to use it, and stuff like that. So could you give a little bit of background on the ESOP thing, and then also your journey to deciding that that's the way you wanted to go? Because we talked a little bit about it, and I just thought it was very cool, and I hope it kind of gives some ideas to other founders who were starting this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please.
Yeah. Well, so what's funny is when I started this thing, I thought, oh, well, we'll just grow it to 5 million in 5 years and then I'll sell it and I'll go do something else, as a
Were
lot of
you
people would
thinking you were an
probably say.
entrepreneur then? Were you like, "Hey, I'm just gonna spin this thing up and make a bunch of," like that feels like very much entrepreneurish.
Yeah. Well, it was the late 90s. Everybody was an entrepreneur.
Everybody was doing
Uh,
it.
uh, so it ended up taking us 16 years to get to $5 million. That's the funny thing about it. But so the ESOP deal, God, it's interesting. Yeah, I was gonna just grow it and sell it, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the clients and the people, and just and I thought, gosh, we've built this thing, and yeah, I mean, it's just a firm that does some accounting for people, but like I've got these people, these nice people I work with, and our clients seem really appreciative of what we're doing, and there seems to be something here. And so, that was probably 5 or 6 years in, and as time went by, I really enjoyed it more and more. And then, in 2010, we articulated our values. So 10 years in, we decided to finally articulate what we were going to stand for. And
Better
that
late
was
than
a
never, by
real
the way,
watershed
right?
moment for, pardon?
I said better late than never, by the way, because there's a
Yeah.
whole lot of people let's just be really clear. There's a whole lot of people that have not done values and mission. And then there's a whole lot of people that have done it on perfunctory basis for other people. And it's not really clean and clear and
Yeah.
tied to
Yeah.
that.
I think that it got to the point where we were getting big enough that we needed to really, early on, it's like, oh, yeah, I think we all kind of are on the same page here. And then we were getting to the big enough where it was like, okay, I don't know that we need to be more intentional about deciding who we are. And so then once we decided, I will say all of our values, we call them passions because they're things we're super passionate about. And so they really grew out of things that we were passionate about, like great accounting. I mean, obviously we're passionate. I'm super passionate about great accounting and engaging environment, like having a fun, engaging place to work. It's not really just about fun. It's about, are we doing cool work? Are we working with people that we enjoy? Do we want to come to work every day? So anyway, once we articulated those in our mission, it allowed us to hire against those and really brought clarity to a lot of our decision processes from there. And so anyway, we got to I guess about 2015 or 16, so about 10 years ago. So I was approaching my 50s at that point,
Okay.
and was starting to think about, and I was realizing that my kids were, even if they were interested in accounting, weren't going to be old enough in the right amount of time to ever take over the company. And so, but they're not interested in accounting.
Hmm.
So it's fortunately for them, the world is a bigger place than just accounting. But anyway, I was thinking about. I was like, I've got to figure out that people tell you, before you start a business, figure out like what you're going to
Your
do with
exit
it. Like,
plan. Yeah.
have your exit plan. I'm like, shit, I didn't have my entrance plan half the time. Sorry, you can bleep that. I sort of my entrance plan was I sort of woke up and I had a business. So I had no intentionality to my exit plan, but I was like, all right, well, I'm approaching my 50s, and my 50s will turn into my 60s, and I need to sort of figure out what's going to happen with this thing long term. And so, private equity in the middle part of the last decade was really continuing to grow and expand, and even getting into the accounting market. And so I started going through and talking to people and like, what does this look like? And this is gonna take up our entire last 15 minutes, I'm afraid. But anyway, I'm
We
gonna
can
try
go
and go
long,
fast.
Chris. We can go long.
Let me bring this to closure. So I
Please.
was meeting with a lot of people, either other accounting firms that we might merge with, or private equity people that might invest in us. And the accounting firm's like, well, you can come merge with us, but I'm not going to give you any money. You can just be part of our firm. And then when you're 65, we'll buy your shares in our firm back at whatever we say they're worth. And if you don't die before that, you might get some money out of this thing. That was kind of what I was hearing back in those days. So strategic acquire was not really a path I could go. So I started talking to financial acquirers.
Mm.
And, here's how I would sum it up. I can't remember whether we talked about this in our initial call, but if you ever seen the movie, It's a Wonderful Life, and a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, it's one of their favorite movies, certainly one of mine. George Bailey trying to save 5 cents on a length of pipe, and, the old building and loan. There was a point in the movie where Mr. Potter calls him in because he's tired of competing with George, and he offers George a job. Like, how would you like this amount of money and a few trips to Europe? And he's like, holy cow. And so he's like, well, can I think about it? George says, and he's sure, talk to your wife, whatever. And so
Hmm.
he gets up and he shakes Mr. Potter's hand, and there's just this pause, and then he pulls his hand back and he's like, no, 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 no. That was how I felt kind of every private equity meeting I walked out of. I was like, I just am
Interesting.
not, I'm getting the Mr. Potter feel out of this thing. So
Wild.
And so anyway, I sort of set all that aside and said, all right, I'm going to have to figure all this out later. And I also was figuring that the day I sell is the day I got to leave because I'm a terrible employee. I can't work for anybody else. And so, am I really ready to do that? And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of complex emotions. So, I set all that aside and I said, I'm going to come back to it later. And then we needed to do some things to improve our profitability regardless. And so, in 20, we implemented open book management, which has been transformative in terms of having our team members understand how our company fits together financially. And we've grown. In 2017, we've hit $5 million for the first time. Next year we'll probably hit $15 million sort of 8 years later. So, it took like 16 years to get to 5, 6 years to get to 10, and like 4 or 5 years to get to 15. And that's really all open book management, to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
And so that was amazing. And so but then we got into this open book management community, and there's all these open book management companies that had implemented an employee stock ownership plan. Because when you open the financials to everyone and teach them about the business, they become really competent at kind of running the business. I mean, you get 45 people running the business, not just me.
Yeah.
And they have a real stake in the outcome. The open book management structure, they get a share of profitability over certain amounts. They get 50 cents of every dollar over some level of profitability that we hit. And so that was super powerful and really kind of started us growing. And so then I looked into this ESOP thing. I was like, well, all these people, so an ESOP is an employee stock ownership plan, and it's a way to transition ownership from, say, the founder or a small group of owners to the employees.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do a whole nother podcast on how that's structured. But basically, there's a separate entity that's formed that borrows money from a bank or the shareholders to buy the stock from the shareholders. And then as that debt gets paid off, those shares get given to the team members. And then when they leave the company, hopefully through retirement or something along those lines, they get to sell their shares back in the same way that I'm selling my shares to the ESOP. And so
Wow.
the free cash flow of the organization goes into the ESOP, and then that's there to repurchase shares. And we do a valuation every year, and as the share price goes up, their shares go up, and it creates wealth for their family in the same way it has for mine. And so
That's
it
awesome.
accomplishes many things, but it allowed me to to put in place a 10-year process of selling my shares of Venturity to my employees. It allowed me to take care of the people who helped me build this thing rather than me selling and taking my big wheelbarrow full of cash, and then they're stuck with whoever the new owners are.
Yeah.
Um, and then it allows them to truly own the company, take that ownership mentality and make it actual ownership.
Yeah.
And then for them to benefit from all of that hard work that they're doing. So when they leave, they can sell their shares and have a liquidity event for their family, and realize the benefits of all of that. So yeah, I mean it's a great thing, you know.
That is so
It's
cool.
so yeah,
Very, very,
it's
very
been
rare.
good. So we've sold the first 20% in, and then the debt from that first tranche is almost paid off. We've paid off probably. We're making a big payment at the end in December, and that's going
Mhm.
to pay. We'll be down to like, I don't know, 20% of the initial debt, and so we're starting to work up the next transaction, which is the next 20-30% of the company.
Wow.
And then once the debt from that's paid off, then I'll sell the rest of it in, and they can
That's
go,
crazy. I
you know.
love the story, and thank you for the depth in like how you got there and kind of like how it's
Yeah,
going.
yeah. It was an emotional journey. And here's the other nice thing about that. I realized I could sell the company to my employees. I could do what I needed to do for my family, but I could also stay as the leader. And
Mm.
those two, my ownership and my leadership, could take two different paths. Okay. And
Whoa. Okay.
so I didn't know when I started the journey, I didn't know which one would terminate first. Like I'd sell everything to the
Mm.
ESOP and still be the CEO, or I would, not be the CEO
Mhm.
and but still be the owner, or I would be neither at the same time. But we wouldn't have to we would have to solve both of those problems at once. So
Interesting.
it's worked out great because so we sold first 20% in, and then a couple of years later, I realized that I didn't have it in my heart to be the CEO anymore, and that wasn't fair to the team for me to stay in that role.
Whoa.
And so, but I would have thought that it was going to probably, I would have thought maybe 2028, 29, 2030. But
Hmm.
like 2022, I realized that, yeah, it's time. And we made the transition in 2023. And now I'm on to my teaching career that I'm really,
I love
really
that.
enjoying. I could not be happier with. So,
All right, Chris, rapid
yeah.
fire time, and then I'm going to get you out of here. I appreciate this time. I can't wait to put this out and show it to some people, but I'm
Yeah, that's great.
curious
No problem. Yeah.
about a couple of your perspectives, right? So,
Okay.
when it comes to accounting, when it comes to finance inside of a business, what advice would you give a founder who's starting today, going out on their own about your lane of expertise? What do
Oh,
they
my
need to know?
goodness. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it yourself, or have a relative or somebody like with some financial expertise do it for you for a period of time. Like, you can't be free. And when you're starting a business, if you got free available to you, take free. But if you don't, there's some inexpensive ways to get it done. We've grown into a larger part of the market, but there's a lot of firms out there and individual bookkeepers that can help you out, that I'd go with more of a firm type thing for a few $100s a month. And you're still going to do some of the work, but they can be there as a partner. And so, and I would say at no point do you really need to hire an accounting department. That I think firms like mine will continue to grow, and you don't need to. You're gonna have all these people that do the operating thing that you do, and then you're gonna have this person that does accounting. Like, that's gonna be the thing that you never want to deal with. So don't hire a person. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
In the world of social media and everyone having hard opinions and too much of a megaphone, I'm curious if there's a business lesson or mantra or statement that you can appreciate now, but you couldn't appreciate until you had to go through it the hard way and learn it for yourself.
Oh gosh, there's probably 20, you know, and I throw them out a lot of the time. I mean, if there's one,
Yeah, top of mind.
yeah, I would say really the idea of lifelong learning. I think it's what served me well.
Hmm.
And I probably spent too much time in my early years running the company feeling like I needed to pretend I knew everything.
Ooh.
And a lot of times I was open, but there were critical times that I wasn't, and it was didn't create a positive environment for some of the key people that worked for me. And so as I continued to kind of humble myself and be open to learning from others,
Hmm.
and realize I didn't need to be fabulous all the time, and that I could admit that, you know what, I really don't have any idea like what that is all about. So let's go figure it out, because I don't know. I'm just an accountant.
Interesting.
So
I love
the
that.
phrase "I'm just an accountant" really helps me, because everybody's like, "Yeah, you are just an accountant." So that concept of lifelong learning for sure. But man, I mean, gosh, there's probably a million others that.
Is there one that comes to mind around like business specifically? Like, just niche down, just, on the
Yeah,
business,
it
not in the
always takes
business.
twice as long as you think it will, and cost
Oh,
twice as much as you think it will. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that one
one,
too.
like, I really thought that, yeah, this is gonna people are gonna love this.
Oh god, and like we're so bad at it just like as humans, like is what makes us great,
Yeah.
but it's also this like thing of like, well, that's for everybody else, not me, which is why I love this question
All
so much.
right,
All
keep
right,
going.
last question, Chris. If and I'm going to get super zeroed in here because you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur. If you have a lane of domain expertise and you decide that you're going to go out on your own today with the current environment, knowing everything that you know, what advice would you give that accountant who does not see himself as an entrepreneur who
Uh,
might go out on their own? What would you tell them today, first day, day one?
it's funny because I've got some ideas for some things I might do in my retirement other than teaching.
Mm,
I've got like a restaurant idea and a real estate development idea and those kind of things. I would say, invest a lot of time up front figuring out whether it's going to work.
oh,
I've got this rental property I need to redevelop, and I could redevelop, but like I have no idea what the market for that is and how much it costs. I have all these people in my life. I'm just going to say, knowing where this place is and what you know about the real estate market, realtor friend of mine, what is the selling price for something that was like 2,000 square feet and multi-story and a townhome thing for that?
hmm,
And then I'm going to ask a friend who's in construction, like, how much would it cost to build and if there's enough delta between there, because I know like by the time I actually do the project, the delta will be more like that. But if there's like this much delta, I'm like, okay, there's something there. But if there's this much delta, it's like, no, I'm going to lose money doing that. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. It's like, don't get too in love with it, and spend some time being intentional about really understanding whether there is a profit margin between like what you can sell it at and what you can do it for, because it does really end up, you know, the assumptions I had about financially how it was going to play out have ended up playing out. It's just taken a whole lot longer than I thought it would,
Hmm.
um, and I also don't start businesses that don't make money. Like I have a hard and fast rule about that. We were going to buy a lake house and then Airbnb it. And I realized that even if I Airbnb'd it 110 days a year, which was basically every weekend, so I couldn't go out there on the weekends, I would still lose $500 a month. And I was like, okay, I don't start a business that like loses money. I just,
I love that you didn't try to talk yourself into it of like, you know what, I'll go on Wednesday, Thursdays, right?
yeah.
So like, I mean, our ability to sell ourselves is truly remarkable, right?
Yeah, no. I think one thing I learned from my dad, and so this is a good phrase that I go back to a lot. So this is probably better than the one I gave you. My dad never said this, but I think what my dad is really good at, and what I try to be good at, is seeing things for what they are and not what I wish them to be.
Mm.
And so I try to look at things objectively, not pessimistically, not optimistically. I have a little bit of optimist in me, but I really try and be honest with myself, and really try to see things for what they are than what I wish them to be, and in people and in clients and in whenever we're making decisions. It's like, okay, yeah, this could be all these great things, but like this is really kind of what it is. Like this is the decision. This right here is a decision we have in front of us, and this is really so. So that I would say that would be what I'd leave you with
That is
is I
awesome.
think what has served me well is I try to see things for what they are rather than what I wish them to be. So
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to sit with that one too. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, if they want to learn about what you're doing, or if they want to catch up with Venturity and maybe take a look at you guys, where would you like to send them? How can people keep up with what you're working on, or go check out your company?
yeah, man, we got plenty of business. I don't want anybody to find us at this point. No,
I
we got
think
a
all the
website. I'm
people on
sure
your ESOP might take a little bit of issue with that statement of just selling away right here.
Abby is wanting to come through the computer screen and strangle
Oh,
me at
did I
this
just get a
point when
text
if she
message?
watches this. No. So venturity.com, where you can find us, and Venturity. And then you can email me at chris@venturity.com or .net. Either one works great. Like, it's real easy that way. And we outsource accounting, but we also have fractional CFO services. So this is the tactical, this is strategic.
Hmm.
And then we also specialize for larger companies in offshoring larger departments for them as well. And it doesn't just have to be accounting. We have an amazing partner overseas that we work with as well.
Oh, very cool.
So, and then if you want to talk ESOP, Great Game of Business, Open Book Management, how I made the transition from corporate to classroom, it's sort of still in process at this point. So we'll see how it works out. Anyway, the dean just emailed me right before this call and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about how we might like to get you involved next semester."
Whoa,
So,
that's
but
good
up until
news.
now, I didn't really have another class at the current university I'm at. So,
Huge.
anyway, and then you can always text me at 214-435-8473. I'm not afraid to
You're putting your
take a
cell
text
phone
from
number
me.
out
So,
here, Chris?
hey, damn right, what the hell? I got nothing else going on.
I mean, the singles upon singles of people who are going to watch this are going to blow you up, my friend. I hope you have the time.
You're right. You're right. No,
Chris,
if I'm covered up by people who are wanting to pick my brain on stuff, that's a good problem to have. I mean, it's all in my head now. Like, it's not doing me any good.
yeah.
So I might as well give it to other people. So
Chris, I want to thank you for coming on and doing this because we don't know each other at all. We got connected through our network, right? So really appreciate you coming in, having this very open conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I'm very thankful that you did. And I think it's going to help some people. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.